My Hero Academia chapter 427 titled Who Was Tomura Shigaraki really dropped, giving us the world's opinions on Shigaraki, Spinner vs. Deku, and the return of Overhaul. So let's get into today's breakdown on chapter 427. Now the chapter begins with a TV program called Who Was Shigaraki, with a reporter asking this question to several people on the street. One man says he was terrified and is glad that Shigaraki is dead. Two women say he was a murderer who killed some of their friends. The old lady who ignored Tenko in the past wonders why he couldn't just stop, and a man says that at first he seemed like a random villain and that no one thought he would be such a threat. The program then begins showing the wreckage of the war, saying that not everything has been rebuilt yet. Deku says he won't deny that he's a murderer, but he's here because Shigaraki left him a message. Spinner asks if he's making fun of a dead guy, and Deku reveals the message of Shigaraki trying to destroy everything till the very end. Spinner is confused and asks if Tomura really asked Deku to say that to him. Deku confirms, and Spinner asks if Shigaraki didn't mention Toga, Dabi, or Compress, but Deku says that the message was only for him. Spinner says that Tomura was his hope, as Shigaraki wanted to destroy everything and showed him a beautiful horizon in DEKU, the city where the League fought the Meta Liberation Army. The more Spinner gets depressed about talking about it, the more his body begins to grow. He thinks to himself, no, I've decided to stop. If I think, I'll only hurt myself. But he keeps talking, and he says that because he's a heteromorph, he has always treated the prejudice he suffered as normal. But Shigaraki allowed him to dream, to become someone and be a part of something big. The doctor says that they'll have to intervene, but Deku raises his hand to prevent the doctor from coming closer. A giant Spinner reaches over the table, holding Deku with both hands, and says Tomura Shigaraki was my hero. The TV in the background continues with a person saying that Shigaraki was a villain with no ideals who only wanted to destroy. Spinner says he loved video games, and on the TV a person says that the police is starting to unravel Shigaraki's past, but they can't empathize with him because history may repeat itself. Spinner continues saying, when I was a shut-in, I played a lot of video games and he liked the same ones as me. On the TV, someone says that Shigaraki was a piece of shit. Spinner, crying, says that Shigaraki was his first friend. Deku says that Shigaraki told him, I have to become a hero to them, referring to the villains and the rejects of society, and that right inside Tomura's heart there was the League, and Shigaraki must have thought the same things about Spinner, and that's why he passed on that message. Spinner remembers his whole journey and how at some point he stopped thinking and just went with the flow. Spinner remembers the moment in the cave with Shigaraki lying on the ground with all of the fingers coming out of him, and comes to the conclusion that if he had realized that something was wrong and taken one more step in the right direction, he could have saved his friend slash hero. The TV says that a new All For One slash Shigaraki could be out there, so they have to watch out for new threats. Spinner says that Deku and the others will keep fighting and they'll forget about the League and smile. He's going to write a book about Tomura Shigaraki, the symbol of fear, and he will continue what Tomura Shigaraki started, as the past never dies. Deku says that instead of a book, it should be a comic book, leaving Spinner a little confused, and Deku tells Spinner that he won't forget Shigaraki for as long as he lives, thus sticking true to his ideals to the very end. Spinner asks Deku to tell the octopus, aka Shoji, to do his best. Deku leaves the room and meets with Sukauchi and All Might, who is in a wheelchair after the war. All Might asks him if he got to tell Spinner the message, and Sukauchi starts to explain what happened to Overhaul. Switching over to Overhaul, we see that he is still in custody, and the Hasaikai boss, aka Eri's grandfather, went to go visit him. Chisaki thought he was in a coma, but the boss says that the support items managed to nullify the effect of the Overhaul quirk on him. Also, he's not the boss anymore, since the organization he ran no longer exists. The boss is extremely disappointed and says that this is what happens when you stray away from the path of humanity, and that he always reached out to Chisaki, but in the end he made the wrong choice. Perhaps Kurono, Chisaki's little right hand man, should have scolded him more. Chisaki cries and apologizes, but the boss says that it's too late to apologize to him, and that he should be apologizing to Eri for the rest of his life. Eri Eri will forget about Chisaki, but he has no right to forget what he did to her. The boss then says that he'll stay by his side, scolding him until he dies. Switching back to Deku, he thanks Tsukauchi and he responds by saying that this option was much better than making Eri relive all of the trauma she suffered at the hands of Overhaul. Deku asks how they can prevent these things from ever happening, and Tsukauchi says it's impossible. Tsukauchi jokingly says only if Hawks multiplies the number of heroes, and Deku believes him, replying Hawks has that much power. All Might says that Deku has to go back to school because the first years have arrived. Deku replies saying that they'll barely see them as the hero course doesn't have that much interaction between grade levels. The chapter ends with many girls shouting Todoroki senpai, Dynamite senpai, and running after them, with both Shoto and Bakugo looking extremely annoyed at all of the attention, leaving Deku shocked and Mineta extremely envious at the pair. Now, this chapter really makes the point that despite Deku being the one that was left with all of the responsibility to change the world and society by Shigaraki at the end of the war, on top of everyone pretty much counting on him to change the world isn't just going to forget what happened, and Hero Society and the people's opinions on villains won't be changing on the fly anytime soon. Which is what makes this chapter so good to me, in how it reflects the way the real world works, and doesn't go with the cop-out ending of everything being all good in the end, showing how just because a certain societal viewpoint has come into the fray, not everyone in society will accept or be willing to change their beliefs and be sympathetic to this idea. The police knowing of Shigaraki's past and not showing empathy for what happened to him that led to Tenko becoming Shigaraki goes to show that this change won't come easy, as no one wants this to lead to another Shigaraki type of villain rising just because people feel bad for what happened to the actual Shigaraki. Tsukauchi himself even states that it's impossible to stop terrible things from happening to people because that's just how the world works. There will always be bad people doing terrible things to others that could spark up the rise of new villains. Even if Deku will make this big change in the world, there will always be villains that need to be stopped. Which begs the question, will this new villain looking character be the next Shigaraki / All For One that everyone is worried about rising? Anyways, let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on the latest chapter of My Hero Academia. Did you enjoy it? What are your thoughts on what was shown in the chapter? Let me know everything in the comment section below. With that said, if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to Detroit smash that like button down below, and if you're new to the Kitoroki channel, then be sure to subscribe to the Kitoroki channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia videos, and I'll see you all in the next one.